The world faces several large challenges, enormous challenges today. We have got the population increase. We are talking about the food crisis. We are talking about climatic issues and water resources, etc. Now, one of these enormous challenges is related to energy. It is imperative that we in the future will be looking into sustainable energy, and sustainable energy in this context here is meant that we should not use more resources than we're leaving after us for our children and grandchildren, etc. So the sustainability in the energy sector is of large importance. Of course, we can say that we do have a lot of oil that is left, although the oil prices have escalated over the last years. We can also say that we have got an enormous amount of coal which is left over, and we can say, without problem say that we probably have got coal for 300 years to go with the present rate. But it is also a question of leaving resources after us and trying to use the enormous quantity of solar energy that we get in at the present time onto, well, every day that we get into the Earth's atmosphere, and trying to use this in a sufficiently good way so that we do not burn the resources that have been accumulated over so many billion years previously. We do have lots of possibilities on the renewable side. We have got wind power, we've got solar power, we've got hydropower, we've got wave power, ocean power, tidal power, etc. Now these enormous quantities of energy that reaches the Earth every day, in principle, we could look at the whole electricity situation that we do have in the world. All the electricity that we use per day could be manufactured in a small part of Sahara if we took all the energy that reaches the Earth. Today we're talking a lot about the climatic issues, the climate, the destruction of the climate. We're talking about the CO2 in the atmosphere. Now, all that is, of course, a major problem, and we have to resolve it. The Western economies, the Western countries, have over the years spent a lot of energy and has burned the fossil fuels. This cannot go on forever, and everyone must do their share in trying to reduce the energy that we're using. Now, the best energy that we have is, of course, the one which is never used. So the energy usage and reduction of the energy we use is of enormous importance. So first of all, the issues that we have to work on is how can we make the energy appliances that we're using in our everyday, how can we make these more efficient? We really have to do something about the cars. There are talks today about fully electric cars. For example, the GM has got a development phase where they say that they will get a demonstration unit by 2010. The question is if the batteries that these cars are going to use, if they will be sufficient in order for us to run the cars over sufficiently large distances. We've got the Toyota Prius, which I haven't seen very many here in Mauritius. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've seen anyone, which have got a very low fuel consumption based upon the fact that it's a hybrid, so that the batteries are charged every time you brake or you slow down your speed. So on the other hand, in the energy sector related to the buildings, there is an enormous consumption in different countries. In Sweden, where I come from, 40% of all the energy is used in buildings, and that is related mainly in our country towards electricity and towards heating. Of course, in a country like yours, here in Mauritius, there's no significant need for heating in many cases, whereas the cooling is of enormous importance. Now, the way that it's done presently is usually that we transform the basic energy to electricity, and then we use electrical air conditioners as chillers in order to get the cooling into the apartments or the office buildings where we are. This is an enormous waste of energy, of course, based upon the fact that an electrical power plant can have an electrical efficiency from approximately 25 if they have got a bad efficiency, up to almost 50 or above, 55 if they're large, up to 55% electric efficiency. You can also go a bit higher if you combine aspects like a gas turbine and a steam turbine. You can get up to 60% electric efficiency out of such a power plant. However, whatever way you're doing that, using thereafter the electricity to cool is not a very efficient way. If we would be talking about trigeneration or combined heat, power and cooling, it is today possible to use the excess heat from a power plant when you produce electricity, to use that excess heat in order to do cooling directly with the heat instead of going from via the electricity. This would be an enormous advantage, of course, because of the total efficiency that will be coming out of such a combined heat, power and cooling plant will become much, much larger than the efficiency that we're having today of running a power plant, getting out often burned with fossil fuels or even with biomass, as is the case here in Mauritius. And then using the electricity for the cooling. The combined aspects here. Now, even if we then talk about using biomass, which we consider to be a renewable energy source, we should not forget that every time that we're using a biomass, for example here the sugar cane in various ways and the bagasse, we end up in spending a lot of fossil fuels in the process of harvesting, in transportation, etc. of this biomass. So the aspect here is that we are today talking a lot about a CO2 neutral environment when we use the biomass. However, we should not forget that in this process we do have the conventional fuels to a very large extent that we're reusing all the time. Now, the best way to do would of course be to run the cars and the harvesting machines directly on biofuels, but we're not that yet. So we'll have to look into the future and try to see what kind of biofuels can we use for our transportation units, for our harvesting units, etc. Now, then we also have got the electricity side. On the electricity side, we should be very, very aware of the fact that in the future it will be possible to get electricity directly from the sun. Now, that can be done with the photovoltaics directly. There are enormous research going on in this area. At the present time, getting electricity directly via photovoltaics getting electricity directly via photovoltaics from the sun is very, very expensive, and it's not worthwhile for the majority of people. But the development will certainly go fast, and it should be possible to reduce the cost of this means of electricity generation within the next 10 to 15 years. There is another way also of using solar energy, and that is related to taking solar thermal and transforming this solar thermal into electricity via a traditional steam turbine. This is of course also problematic because of the fact that the sun does not shine all the time. The sun does not shine with the same efficiency all the time, or with the same intensity. So it is in such a case important to both look at how the power station is run, how is the steam turbine and the other components working together in a solar powered station compared to a traditional biomass fueled or coal or oil fueled power plant. These are research issues that are going on, but in a country like Mauritius there would be enormous potential related to this also. Then we are talking about the wind power. Of course, the wind power is enormous. There's enormous potential for that. I do not honestly know how large the wind forces are, or wind power is on the Mauritius, but there is definitely possibilities. One of course has to be aware of the fact that we're then looking at environmental aspects also, and the tourism could suffer if there was an enormous number of wind power stations that were built up in certain areas. However, ocean-based wind power is definitely something that is looked upon in many countries, and especially in Sweden. In Sweden we have got large problems, of course, based upon the fact that we would have an Arctic climate, so that there would be ice built up on the wind power turbines, and that will not be the case here. So you would be in a much better position for those issues. Ocean power is also something that is worked upon quite a lot, and that it would probably be possible in your part of the world to use this to a large extent. There are lots of problems with the energy as a general. I've been speaking about the climatic effects, such that if we're continuing to burn coal, we'll certainly have a lot of CO2 being pumped out in the air, unless we do take drastic movements against, for example, capturing the CO2 and digging that down into the earth again. This is research that is being done in many countries, and what's then done is that you capture all the CO2 in a mode which is called CO2 capturing or CO2 sequestration, and then you can put that CO2 back into the earth where the oil or the natural gas comes from. The studies that have been made shows that there should be no CO2 that would then come out of the earth. So it should be a very safe way of keeping the CO2, and thus we would not ruin the atmosphere for future generations, and we would not increase the temperature, etc. Now these measures have then to be taken fairly soon or very soon, based upon the fact that the temperature has risen a few degrees over the last few hundred years, especially since over the last 100 years. And it is necessary that we do something necessary to do something very, very fast. Now, today people are talking quite a lot about different energy sources. We're talking about coal, we're talking about nuclear power, and then we're talking about renewables. Renewables today is a very, very small minority. Now, the predictions that are done is that by 2030 we will still be using between 80 and 85% of all our energy that we're using will still come from fossil fuels. That is from natural gas, coal and oil. The renewable energies, they are increasing heavily in many parts of the world and very, very fast percent-wise, but they're starting at such a very, very low level, so that even having a goal of 10% renewable in your total energy scenario might be a large problem for many countries by 2015. There are discussions in many countries of having a 20% energy mix from renewable energy by 2020. And in Sweden, there have been discussions related to the fact that we think that we should be able to get rid of all oil dependency in the Swedish society, apart from transportation, by 2020. But if such a thing should be done, there needs to be drastic measures that needs to be taken on the political level, and that is not readily done from the politicians and from the decision makers. We should also be talking about the fact that many companies and industries, they look upon all the renewables today, that these cannot, apart from hydropower, that they cannot survive in today's environment without a subsidy. These subsidies questions can be discussed for a long time, based upon the fact that we can also say that, in fact, the oil, coal, and natural gas are perhaps already subsidized by the governments in such a way that there are no big environmental taxes upon these polluting fossil fuels. Now, I'm not advocating one way or the other. The only thing that I'm saying is that when people talk about the fact that we are willing to install a solar panel, for example, or we are willing to install a boiler for biomass, if the government subsidizes, one should instead say that, well, the government is subsidizing the cost for fuel, fossil fuel, based upon the fact that we use that all the time, and we do not have any we do not pay any environmental taxes on those fuels. Now, I would also like to talk about the education related to energy, to the field of energy. There are a lot of teachers, engineers in certain part of the world. There is enormous potential for students in many countries to learn about sustainable energy engineering, which they usually do not have the possibility to do. We have thus at KTH teamed up with the University of Mauritius, with the Department of Chemistry and Environmental Engineering, to create a master program which is such that students can sit here in Mauritius and follow via online lectures, via remotely controlled laboratories, via synchronous and asynchronous dialogue with the teachers in Stockholm. The students can follow a complete master program here at the University of Mauritius and get a degree from the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, Sweden. Now, the reason why we're doing this from Sweden is based upon the fact that we believe that it's absolutely necessary to bring the latest technology available related to various educational methods, various energy efficient models, both on the generation side of electricity, generation of heat and cooling, etc., as I was speaking about earlier, or related to the energy usage, as well as related to the climatic aspects and the social awareness of how we should behave in order to save the climate. Now, we're giving those lectures directly online as well as in a recorded version, so that students down here in Mauritius can follow this program. Now, we're especially working, as I said, with the Department of Chemical Engineering and Environment here at University of Mauritius, together with Professor Mohet, especially. And this program is then designed so that students, first of all, can learn from us, but it is also so that the technology that we are having in Sweden can be transferred to the Mauritius both related to the university as well as related to industry. We are hoping through this program to excite many young and bright students towards the energy area, and we're hoping that many of these students can then both start to work at the industry here as well as in governmental organizations. But we're also hoping that these students, some of these students, can stay on as faculty at University of Mauritius for the future, and that we then will be able to create new environmental programs here in Mauritius. Through this, we are also hoping that we in Sweden will learn about the energy problems in this part of the world, that we will be able to talk about, and we will be able to learn how we should proceed in the future in order to have a global energy education in the world, so that we will be better equipped everywhere to solve these global interacting problems that we have with the climate and with also with food, which is also a kind of energy part. In this part of the world, we think that the sustainable energy engineering will have a tremendous possibility. There will be new areas of business that will be created. The wind power company Vestas, for example, in Denmark, they have got an enormous potential, and they have grown with a few 100% over the last years, even if they're starting with low numbers, of course, but they are one of the major players nowadays on the wind power side in the world. So there will be a lot of possibilities for what is called green technology to develop, and lots of companies that can be evolving in the area for the future. And I'm sure that also companies here in Mauritius would have the possibility to grow and to profit from this growing market. Of course, there are the development of many technologies are today done in different countries, but they will have to be used in many other countries. And then we have got all the awareness, the social aspects, and the green companies that have to follow on these green technologies for the future. The renewable energy sources that we're talking about have also got their problems. Now, as we're speaking about the fact that if we take wind power, we will have the wind power which will perhaps distract tourism to a certain extent. But we will also have lots of tourists that will be attracted by the fact that we'll have got sustainable tourism, for example. This is a very important factor that hotels today can, with relatively simple means and with not too large investments, will have the possibility to put up, for example, a small wind power plant which can provide some of the electricity for that hotel. They will also have the possibility to put up solar panels, and they will definitely have the possibility to heat a large part of the water for the domestic use, that is for showering, etc. They will also have large possibilities of doing that through normal solar thermal by just heating the water from the sun or by the sun. Of course, there's always a problem with the storage, and you will always have to rely upon some kind of backup. But in the case that it is possible to use the solar and the wind for for different aspects during a certain part of the day, it will definitely be it will definitely reduce the amount of electricity and the amount of pollution that can be done, and it will specifically reduce the cost that the hotels will have for the energy. Now, if you then on top of it could combine a hotel with a boiler where they're using biomass, you would have a tremendous selling point towards the companies or the persons, I would rather say the tourists, in Europe, because these tourists are getting more and more environmental concerned. They are concerned already about the fact that they have to travel quite a long distance, and that will produce CO2 through the airplanes. But if you would have the possibility to show these tourists that while they are here, they have got a sustainable treatment in the hotels, considering those aspects that I was talking about previously, but also related to the fact that you could reuse and make, for example, or take care of all the waste in the hotel, burn the waste in municipal waste incinerators, or create also biogas from the leftover food, from the human wastes, etc. Those are issues that I think will be of enormous potential in the future, and it will be a good marketing for these hotels that in your country goes into these areas.